So I think our next two speakers are ready to go. It's so fun to have two speakers on this stage. Their talk is called How to DAO and Not Die, and the speakers are Kris Decoodt and Lauren Liu. So give them a round of applause as they make their way up to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. So today we're going to talk about how to DAO and not to die. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but first I want to ask, how are you, Lauren, and who are you?
Hello, I'm Lauren Liu, and I work with Giveth. I'm a Giveth product lead, and I've been there for 3 years. And you know what, right now I'm really excited to be here with Kris. I've admired Kris for a long time because he used to work with Giveth and lead comps, then I stepped into his shoes, and it's tough shoes to fill. So I'm really happy to be here on stage with him, but on a broader scale, I'm pretty exhausted overall.
Yeah.
How are you, Kris?
Yeah, so I'm also very exhausted, and that's actually why we want to do this talk. It's about being exhausted, so that's definitely the topic. And so I'm Kris. I work at Gitcoin. I currently work part-time. I'm really happy about that because I'm exhausted. But so I used to lead DAO operations at Gitcoin, so that's a lot of topics together. And before that, as Lauren mentioned, I was doing communications for Giveth a few years back. Let's dive in.
Yeah, let's dive in. So I guess the first thing I want to ask you is, why the talk? Why how to DAO and not die? I know you're exhausted, but what are some of the ideas that are inspiring you?
Indeed. So it's a very clickbaity title. So it's actually the talk or the conversation that we want to have. It's not just about how to not die, but it's actually how to thrive. How can we thrive in this space? Because that's what we should be doing. If we're talking about changing the world, about Web3, about DAOs, a DAO cannot work without the people really thriving. And so when just looking around here, I already get super inspired. It's beautiful to see all these people. Eat Barcelona is a very regen event. There's a lot of the activists, a lot of the people with a lot of energy here, and that in itself is already something that makes me thrive and inspires me. But then when you look at a wider scale, first of all, the thing, when you look here with all these OGs who are just really building, they're building nonstop. And that is inspiring, but at the same time, it might not be so healthy. I think almost all the people I talk to here, they're I am exhausted as well. Don't tell anyone. Many people are, and if you're I don't have that issue at all. I feel totally fine. I'm chill. I'm thriving. Well, look around you and ask your peers if they are. If they're not feeling good, just check in and listen to them. And this is not happening enough. So if we want to thrive, if we want to build better systems, we have to first look at ourselves. I also had a great conversation yesterday with some people on how can you build healthy systems if you are not healthy yourself. We need to really have the time to rest, to regenerate, to deal with our own traumas, with our pains, the things that actually possibly brought us here. I think, honestly, personally, I also feel that anyone in this space should maximum work 50%, because we need time, because it's so important what we're building. You need time to actually, absorb the information, to read, to relax, but also, absorb culture. If you don't see what's happening in the wider world, how can you actually really know what the world needs? So it's about a whole lot of things, and then that's why I think that is a topic that I want to keep bringing back, because I actually already gave 2 presentations at the previous ETCs on this topic, and I was hesitating, but then again, being here, it's not only do I feel every time that people need to talk about this more, I think it should, at every event, it should be a full track about culture, about regenerating, etc. And the great thing about eBarcelona is that there is actually a culture track. So every event should have this. We should really focus on this as much as possible. So that is just setting the scene. That's a little bit the general points. So now to dive in a little bit, like Lauren, like if we think about burnout and not crashing, like what comes to mind? What do you think that we could be doing?
You know, I think you said it really well when you were saying, like, if we want to build better systems, we need to make sure that we're also nourishing ourselves, because otherwise we're going to build systems where we're not nourishing ourselves and we're not nourishing each other. Like, you can only be part of these systems if you're just like coming in and going super hard. So I think that like some of the things that we can do to do better is just keeping that in mind, like keeping it in mind that you're important, like your health and your well-being is extremely important. Sleeping is so important. It's like when I don't have a good night's sleep, I feel so much worse the next day. All my problems seem like they're so much more insurmountable, and even like my ability to do the things that I want to do is like greatly decreased. So I think like very basic things like eating well and sleeping and saying no to things. A major thing that I think could really help, and I'm bad at this, that's why I'm so exhausted, is setting boundaries, saying, like, actually that's too much. I lead products at Giveth. I organize products, and so much it happens that, like, oh, we got a request from the fundraising team that now we're building this thing, or like, oh, you know, wouldn't it be great if like this part of our DApp was improved? And suddenly it just like, while I'm here trying to build quadratic funding, also this other thing jumps onto my plate, and I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'll do it. And then I work extra hard, and then I just like, in some way I disassociate, and I don't really check in with like what I really need. I'm like, I treat myself like I'm a machine. I treat myself like I'm a product, but I'm actually a human. So setting boundaries, saying like, actually that's too much, or saying even delegating and bringing more people in. Relying on teams and relying on community, being like, I can't manage this, but maybe you could. Maybe this person could help me out. I think that's really important. And one thing, yeah, I would really like to stress too, because in Giveth I've been there for 3 years. So I started out not knowing really anything about crypto and Web3, and I sort of like figured it out and took on more and more things, and now I'm like orchestrating so many different parts of Giveth, and I just like feel like I'm somehow like the hand of the queen. But like, it's a lot of responsibility, and also a lot of people in the organization like somehow look up to me for how I am behaving. So if I don't set good boundaries, I set like a cultural environment that trickles down where other people feel pressured, like in order to take on that stuff that I'm doing, they also need to work that hard. And so I think like by taking care of ourselves, we also encourage other people to take care of themselves. Oh, yes. And then we can really propagate that forward and really be building things that we want for a better world and living in that better world as we're doing it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, what are some things that you think that we can do to nourish ourselves and each other? And
yeah, well, first of all, everything you said. Plus, on top of that, the thing that like we used to have this at Gitcoin. At the moment, we don't, but we should have this again. Is like every organization should have a dedicated people person. Just like, you know, in standard organizations, this is just HR. Like in DAOs, like this barely exists. It's something that we do on the side. But like for me, it should be like 10 times as important, because it's a DAO. It's decentralized, or it's not. There's a lot of like hidden structures of power that make things very often even more exhausting and more complicated, and we're all working remote. So you need someone who takes care of the people. And so that can be, I would say like a people person is someone who like relieves the stressors, all sorts of stressors. It could be like, yeah, how am I getting paid in this crazy world to begin with? That's one thing that I already see people losing energy on it. So it could be a random thing, but it's quite important. Like it's like what is unavoidable, like death in Texas, like even crypto. So like people person, very important. Yeah, and this person can also be a person who can just like, that you can confide in if there's like conflicts or tensions or conflict resolution that needs to happen. Like such a person that does a lot. I think it's for any organization, any DAO, think, okay, you hire your developer or your developers, a business dev person, maybe a comms person, and then the third or the fourth hire, make that your people person. Like that should just like be written in stone in like the laws of the DAO. Like I think we need that. That's one thing. And then I think apart from that, yeah, indeed, like really, yeah, nobody is gonna save you except for hopefully that people person is gonna help you a little bit. But some of the things that came up before for me is, yeah, health. So just like try to bring structure in your life. That's something that helps me a lot. Just having a daily structure, moments that you just like shut off your phone and that you're really have time for yourself. So like I have my day of just like in the morning I go for a walk, I have my lunch at the same, well I have my breakfast, I take time to read, just to wake up, to embrace the day. I go for a walk, I do some outside stuff, I go in nature, then I work, and then I try to like stop at the right time. I'm also not always succeeding at that. I'm like suffering from the same disease as you, so like bad with boundaries, but I try to. And having that structure on a daily basis, that helps me as well. Another thing that's important for me is connection. So just like checking in with people, can be your friends, and if a lot of your friends are working in this space, well then that's also fine, but just like check in, like book some time in your calendar, either to just like go entirely out of the space or just have a call with a friend in this space to not talk about the project, but just talk about yourself. Like, how are you doing? Just like book in some time, block some time in your agenda. If you don't block it, someone else will book it for some other meeting. That is also very important. But no, it's very important that you take care of yourself. And as a separate element, I would even say like nature. Like I really put that as a big topic, just like nature. I really deeply believe in that. It's also always, I feel it's a topic in Eat Barcelona. I'm really sad that there's no grass on the stage, but like touch grass whenever you can. It's an important thing. I think just checking here. Yeah, I think that's like the most important things for me. And then I guess a question that I have for you, Lauren, is, so I come also from Giveth, and I always appreciated, and honestly I think for many people it's also known in the space, that like it always felt like a family. I'm like right now even staying at the Giveth house. It's just so cozy, it's so nice. So, and it's a nourishing in itself to have that feeling. So how does this work at Giveth for you? What makes it tick, what makes it work, and what doesn't work?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, something I really love that you were just saying is how it's important to have a people person. And, you know, we were also talking a lot about boundaries. I think, like, having a people person and even somebody who's, like, making boundaries for the organization, defining things and making them clear that are often, like, kind of, like, loosey-goosey, things like vacation. Like, I was actually talking with Ashley, who's here in the audience, and she's amazing, and she was like, mandatory vacation days. It's like you must take X vacation in X period of time. And just, like, having that set out as kind of like an organizational rule, it creates like a culture where people are like told to take care of themselves, and in some way, you know, I need that. I need someone to tell me like go sleep and take care of yourself. So this can be really helpful. But yeah, we've got a lot of different structures at Giveth that I think really help to promote like a community of support, and all the resources are available. Like we have a system called the buddy system, where everybody at Giveth, every Giveth contributor has a buddy, and their buddy, it's like we kind of have like the taken care of buddy and the caretaker buddy kind of like structure. It's like a big brother, little brother kind of system, but everybody has one. So sometimes you're someone's big brother, but then you're someone else's little brother, and we're all just kind of like matched with each other. And your buddy is a person who you can ask questions to about the organization, that you can like get to know, like you can ask for support, and I think like with these buddy systems, we really like build friendships with each other and start to like not see each other just as colleagues, but also as humans and with like diverse sets of needs. So like that's, I think, something really important. And then there's other really small things that we do too, like camera on culture. You know, I think it's so important is to realize that people are humans. Yeah. And that can get crazy in the crypto space when like a lot of people are anon or icons or just like camera offs, but coming to conferences are often very nourishing because you like see people and you're like, how are you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm struggling with this, or I'm struggling with this, and you can really kind of connect and be vulnerable with each other. And I think like our camera on culture in some small way in calls creates that environment. Where
this memory that we're like 3-dimensional human beings.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
Yeah. And then also like I feel like camera on culture, and then I often have like little side DM chats with people. You look so cute today, and like, oh, how you doing? Oh, is that a snack? You know, and that actually just like lightens everything up. And I think like looking for the light things instead of all just the serious things is really important. And then one more thing I'd really like to mention too, that is also a resource, is Gravity DAO, and Giveth has really incorporated this gravity system, and gravity is really focused on kind of like conflict resolution, but also sort of like, I'm thinking it's also kind of like internal conflict resolution, like resolving conflicts with yourself and taking care of yourself. So we have this like, well, we have like Nicola on the gravity team who's also here and hanging out, and Heather, and they help people when they're having like weirdness. They help support people, and we have a form you can fill out, and you can be like, hey, I'm having this weird conflict in this sticky situation, and then just like it opens a conversation of humanness, and we like work to solve things out of that. And like these gravity sessions will then often lead to kind of tangible things, you know? It's like we're having gravity sessions and realizing some problems coming up, and then the end result is like, okay, let's create this like organizational thing where like everybody gets a little bit of extra vacation time or something like that. And I think that this is like really healthy, because people can come in and keep like looking back, like what else can I do? Like what can we as an organization then do to improve like our organizational mental health and bring that forward to the next step?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And the thing that you also have at Giveth, and we also actually use it a lot at Gitcoin, is just the strategy, or like the pattern of gratitude. So like just the praise system, just like praise people. Like whenever you can, whenever you think of it, just like send a message. We have a special thread always going on about praise. And we also have, at the beginning of our weekly meeting, we also say, I just want to call out this person. It's just wonderful what you did. I see you. Even if nobody else sees you, I've seen that you did this. And I want everyone to know that is just like a really beautiful one. And linked to that is, like we have so many like, oh, we only have 30-minute meeting or sometimes an hour, but it's like we always try to do like check-ins, like and with it sounds so silly, but it's so important. Like in like our leadership meeting in the CSDO call, we always do this with the check-in question generator, and like then we go deep, like what's the latest book that you read, what is this, la, la, la. And you can just have these random conversations that you like get to know each other, because indeed you're far away all the time, and it helps to connect. The connection is super important.
Yeah, definitely.
And then for you, like almost out of time, but like what doesn't work for you, because we also need to talk about this.
What doesn't work? You know, I mean, I mentioned it before, but I think like one thing that doesn't work is when I as a leader will like not take care of myself, and then that like trickles down into other things. I see this as just like really being a problem, especially if I support so many people, I'm like so many people's buddy, and like I'm trying to like help them onboard to the system and like somehow take care of themselves, and I'm not taking care of myself. So I think like it doesn't work if you're in a leadership role in a DAO, it doesn't work if you're not also prioritizing some balance in your life, like taking care of your body, exercising, going into nature. I loved your touch grass. My mom is always telling me like I need to go barefoot and put my feet in the grass, because it like connects you to the earth and like balances your like electromagnetic field with the earth. My mom is kind of a hippie, but I think it makes a lot of sense, because if you put your bare feet in the grass, you just feel better.
Grounding.
Yeah. That's something that I think doesn't work well, and I'm really trying to work to improve, though.
Yeah, same. I would want to move out of the city, honestly, for that even. There's not enough grass. Yeah.
We're running out of time, but I wanted to hear from you a little bit about, like, what are some resources that people can go to learn a little bit more about how to take care of themselves?
Yes, totally. So like some of the things I wrote down here is like, so I saw actually last year a talk about Livia, who's also here, and Tamara at the DAOist, so you can look it up. We can also create a little thread about this. So cultural practices in self-governing communities. So like it's also the Giveth ecosystem, and this is a lot about like setting a culture. Just like having this as a framework is very important. I did like another talk, which was a workshop, which is called Burnout is the Easiest Exploit. So you can also look for that one on YouTube at ETC. There's projects like 2+, but I saw they're on a break, very healthy. But like if you know other projects, like just like let us know and we share them. You mentioned Gravity DAO, right?
Yeah, gravitydao.org, and they actually have a course right now where you can go and sign up for the course and like go through these exercises and just learn conflict resolution and self-care.
Yeah, okay. So then, Lauren, I do want to still thank you. Well, thank you for sure, but like ask you like what are like some final thoughts? Because 20 minutes we're very frustrated. 20 minutes is so not enough. This is just like the tip of the iceberg. But what are some final thoughts that you want to share on this topic?
I mean, final thoughts is like remember to have gratitude for the people that are around you. Like even though I'm like kind of just like burning the midnight oil constantly and feeling really burnt out, like our community at Giveth, it's like I actually like want to tear up talking about it. Our community at Giveth is so great, and like I see them all here hanging out, and they're so supportive, and they're such nice, wonderful people, and just like open your eyes, like get out of your computer and realize that you're working with real people who care about you and want to see you succeed.
Bam. Yes. And that is, you're going to make me tear up as well, but that is actually the point that I have here in capitals in my notes. Is actually be vulnerable. It's super important. Just like open up. Just like this is, hey, we're all here because we want to make the world a better place, I think. We want to improve the current systems. If you're not going to open up like how you're doing, how you're feeling, it's never going to work. Just like be vulnerable, connect. Find your people. Another thing I would say, like I think every person, I'm really tearing up here. Every person needs to have like a therapist and a coach, like both these things. There was a quote from someone recently. Just like have this, make your DAO pay for it. Just like which is like a basic human right in DAOs, I think. And then, keep coming to events, but also like set your boundaries at events, like pace yourself. Like these events are always super exhausting, so you can go home. You don't have to see all the talks. They're recorded, so you shouldn't even be here. so like very important. And as a final point, I wanted to say like, our DMs are always open, so like we're there. If you have other thoughts, if you want to, follow up on this. Honestly, I think this should not just be a track at events. This should be a year-long like track that goes on where we just like support, where we build more communities, start more of these initiatives. So I would say like that's my recommendation. Just like let's connect, let's keep connecting, let's stay vulnerable, and let's thrive together. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Actually, we do have some time for questions.
Oh.
If people have any questions, if you haven't sent them to the chat rooms.
I don't know if there are any questions like here. That's from the audience. Any questions for us? If not, that's fine too. Yeah, Gil.
How do you identify when you're starting to burn out so you can avoid going too deep into it?
Oh yes, that's a really good point. What Gil was asking, like how do you actually see the signs of burning out? Because it's a term that is like completely overused. I can say I'm personally like an expert. I like burnt out multiple times. Like I've been home like twice for a full year when I was still working in the legacy world. That how I knew that something was seriously wrong. So what are the signs? I think for me a big sign is when you when every task that is normally simple for you becomes really very complicated. Right? Like, oh, I just have to do this thing that I normally do, and now, I have to prepare the notes, and it's impossible. Like, it's too much. Like, that's one thing. We talked about this, like, another one is like, you just want to, like, start slamming your computer. You, like, get cynical. You get, like, annoyed at moments that normally you have way more level of patience. So, like, you reach this, like, level that you're just like, oh no, every time you go in the red. And so like that's one thing. Another thing that I know is like just like your sleep. If your sleep pattern is just like disrupted, that's also a very big sign. If you're just like not able to relax anymore and just like calm down and let go of the things. I don't know, other things that come to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, so I read What is Burnout like sometime a year ago, and it was like, it said that productivity starts decreasing, and I was like, well, I'm really depressed and unhappy, but I'm not productive. I'm extremely productive, actually. I'm just like angry all the time and very sad, but everything gets done. And actually, I realized that was me burning out. And now, like a year later, I'm starting to get less productive. So I think that like getting depressed is an early sign of burnout, and I know that getting depressed is like not good and probably already too far, but like for me it was like, if only a year ago I actually started making actual changes instead of just saying like, yeah, I'm gonna make changes, but like I can still go hard. Now I'm like almost can't go hard.
Yeah, I had the same time, like the first time this happened, I remembered like going to a specialist and it was like, yeah, well, you just filled this thing out and you're like, I have all the signs of burnout. And it's like, yeah, but I'm still productive. I think I'm totally okay. And she was like, and she had like an assistant there, like, and she was like, so when you hear him, do you think he's burnt out? And she was like, yes. And then I was like, okay, thank you for the advice. And then I still kept going for 3 months. And then so like until I had started having panic attacks. I really started just having panic attacks. I was like, oh, why am I just like running around and like can't breathe anymore? That's called a panic attack. So if you reach that stage, you're already like 3 months too far. So, and I had a friend who actually told me before yesterday as well, like I took a break of for a month, and I was still tired. I was still exhausted. Another example, if you take vacation and you're just like still like it's not enough, like it just shows you need more. Like allow yourself to do this. The project is not going to go away. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. So you can take a break. Seriously. Any other questions if we have time? Yeah, maybe one more question? Sure.
Go ahead.
Oh.
So, yeah. So, in practical terms, you said, I will set boundaries, right? So, how do you set your own limits? Mm-hmm. And that's pretty difficult. So you don't know where to set the limits to have a healthy work routine or a work in general.
I think a really easy one to do is time boxing things. Being like, this is the time I work. I don't work after this. You know, I try to keep all work on Discord, and my Telegram I keep mostly like, even I talk to work people, but mostly not about work stuff, you know? So I don't see Discord notifications on my phone, and like, I think the healthiest is when I am like, well, you know, even though the work isn't done after 8 hours of working, I still have to stop, you know? It's like, just like, commit to the time and stop it, you know? Be like, I've reached the time and now I've stopped. And I think that like, just by doing that, I mean, I think it really depends on the type of person that you are, but like for me, I'll just like keep going, and then I just really am focused and I want to finish the thing, but it's not good, it's not healthy, and that thing is actually not that important. It's so funny, like all of those little things that I spent all those extra hours doing so many days ago, like what did they do? They didn't do anything else different. Like we're still here, the same stuff is happening, you know?
Yeah.
So
totally.
time boxing.
Time boxing, and for that reason, like I never, for example, I never work in the weekends, like never. It's like my holy rule. Like many people don't do even that, and like that's one thing I do. I indeed also like in the evening, I just like, it's like after 9 p.m. I try not to. I still work, but at least I don't book any meetings anymore. So like stuff like that. But it's yeah, just like setting, and that's different for everyone. Just like put your boundaries for yourself and ask indeed like your peers how they do it. Like just asking these questions, exchanging tips and tricks, that helps for sure.
And one more thing, I also really like the idea of committing to something not work related and making it very important, and you can't miss it, you know? Like I practice yoga every morning, and if I didn't, I would be even worse, you know? Like, because it helps me connect with my body, it helps me just like kind of like release tension and really see where I'm at and feel into things. And so I have to do yoga every morning. And I've had to do yoga every morning for like a decade. And I think that's actually been really, really important. So committing to things that aren't work related that you know nourish you.
Yeah, totally. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.